Why cat people understand something about life that others don't. You know that strange moment when your cat finally decides to sit next to you, not when you call them, not when you try to pet them, but hours later, when you've stopped trying. They quietly jump onto the couch, curl into a small warm circle beside you and begin to purr. And suddenly the entire world seems to slow down. Your breathing becomes deeper, the noise inside your mind gets quieter, and for the first time all day you feel something that's become surprisingly rare in modern life: peace. If you've ever experienced that moment, you probably understand something about cats that many people never quite grasp. Because being a cat person isn't really about loving animals, it's about something much deeper. It's about how your nervous system experiences the world. And once you understand that, the strange bond between humans and cats begins to make perfect sense. The first misunderstanding about cat people. People often say things like dog people are friendly, cat people are distant. But that explanation is far too simple. In reality, the difference may come down to how our brains regulate stimulation. Some nervous systems regulate through activity. They feel better when energy is high. They enjoy constant interaction, conversation, feedback, and engagement. Dogs are perfect for that. Dogs initiate play. They mirror excitement. They constantly pull attention outward. But other nervous systems work very differently. For many people, especially those who are highly observant or mentally active, the nervous system regulates through quiet stability. Too much stimulation can feel overwhelming. Too many expectations can feel exhausting. And constant interaction can create subtle stress. Cats offer something rare. They don't demand attention. They simply exist in the same space. And strangely enough, that can be exactly what the brain needs. A cat doesn't require emotional performance. Think about human relationships for a moment. Even the healthiest ones involve a certain level of expectation. Respond quickly. Explain how you feel. Match someone else's emotional energy. Show enthusiasm. Show reassurance. Show appreciation. All of that is normal. But it also requires constant emotional management. For people who are naturally sensitive to emotional environments that can be tiring, cats operate differently. A cat does not assume it has access to your attention. It approaches you only when it chooses, and when it leaves, it doesn't ask for an explanation. This creates something surprisingly rare in relationships. Connection without intrusion. You and the cat share space, but neither of you controls the other, and that mutual respect for boundaries is part of why the relationship feels so calming. The nervous system loves predictable calm. Modern neuroscience tells us something interesting about safety. The brain is constantly scanning for signs of danger. This process happens automatically through what psychologists call neuroception, a concept introduced by neuroscientist Stephen Porges in polyvagal theory. Your nervous system is always asking one silent question: am I safe right now? If the answer is uncertain, your body remains slightly tense. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes shallow, muscles tighten. But when the brain receives signals of safety, the opposite happens. The body relaxes, breathing deepens, attention becomes more focused, and interestingly enough, one of the signals that can trigger this safety response is rhythmic sound. Why a cat's purr feels so calming. A cat's purr usually vibrates between 25 and 150 Hz. Research has suggested that frequencies within this range can have calming and even healing effects on the body. These low rhythmic vibrations are believed to reduce stress, slow breathing, relax muscles, and lower blood pressure. But even beyond the physical effects, purring creates something psychologically important. It fills silence without overwhelming it. For people who dislike total silence but also feel overwhelmed by noise, a purring cat creates a perfect middle ground. It's presence without intrusion. And the nervous system responds immediately. That's why so many cat owners describe a strange feeling when a cat purrs beside them. Not excitement, not stimulation, just settling. The quiet companion effect. There's another reason cats seem to pair naturally with thinkers, artists and writers. Deep thinking requires long stretches of uninterrupted focus. Creativity thrives in mental quiet. But many forms of companionship unintentionally break that focus. Dogs require constant interaction. Humans require conversation. Phones demand attention every few minutes. Cats don't interrupt. They can sit in the same room for hours without demanding anything. And in a world built on constant notifications, that kind of presence is incredibly rare. It's no coincidence that throughout history many writers and philosophers kept cats nearby. From Ernest Hemingway to Mark Twain, cats often appeared in the lives of people who needed space to think. Not because cats make people smarter, but because they protect the environment where thinking happens, the strange intelligence pattern. Interestingly, some psychological studies have found correlations between cat ownership and certain personality traits. For example, research by psychologist Denise Guastello at Carroll University found that self-identified cat lovers tended to score slightly higher in openness to experience, introversion, intellectual curiosity. But they also scored higher in something else, neuroticism, which is a scientific way of saying cat people may think deeply and worry deeply too. And that combination creates an interesting dynamic. People who analyze the world intensely often need environments where their minds can slow down. Cats provide that environment naturally. Why cats trigger our caretaking instinct? There is another fascinating biological factor at play. Cats activate something scientists call the baby schema effect. This concept was first described by ethologist Konrad Lorenz. Certain physical features automatically trigger caregiving instincts in humans. Large eyes, rounded heads, small noses, soft movements. These features are common in human infants, but they also appear strongly in domestic cats. When your cat looks up at you, your brain may subconsciously interpret those signals as something that needs protection. Which explains why even independent cats can trigger strong nurturing instincts. But there is an interesting twist. Cats rarely demand that care, and that changes the emotional dynamic. Caring without emotional pressure. In many relationships, nurturing flows in both directions, and that can sometimes feel overwhelming. But with cats, the emotional flow is simpler. You care for them. They exist beside you. They may show affection, but they do not require constant reassurance. For people who grew up learning to manage other people's emotions, this type of connection can feel incredibly safe. It allows closeness without emotional overload. You can give care without needing to constantly perform happiness, enthusiasm, or reassurance. And for many nervous systems, that balance feels deeply comfortable. The cultural misunderstanding of quiet. Modern culture often treats quiet people as if something is wrong. If you enjoy solitude, people may assume you are lonely. If you prefer calm environments, people may assume you are antisocial. But for many people, quiet is not isolation. Quiet is clarity. It is the space where thoughts settle, where creativity appears, where emotions process themselves naturally. Cats understand this instinctively. They do not rush silence. They inhabit it. And that may be one of the most profound lessons they teach us. If you're watching this and quietly thinking, "That describes me perfectly," then you're definitely not alone. There is an entire community of people who understand this unique bond with cats. If you enjoy exploring the psychology and science behind animal behavior like this, consider subscribing. And if you'd like to support the channel and help these deep dives continue, becoming a member genuinely helps more than you might realize. Now let's go a little deeper, because the most surprising part of this story hasn't appeared yet. Loving something that doesn't need you. Humans often define relationships through need. We like feeling important. We like feeling necessary. We like being depended upon. But cats challenge that idea. A cat does not stay with you because it has no choice. Cats are perfectly capable of independence. They stay because they choose to stay. And that creates a very different emotional dynamic. When a dog greets you excitedly every day, it feels wonderful. But when a cat chooses to sit beside you quietly, it feels strangely meaningful, because you know something important. The cat didn't need to do that. It simply preferred your company. And that subtle distinction creates a deeper sense of trust, the deeper psychological truth. So in the end, this story isn't really about cats at all. It's about nervous systems. Some people thrive in loud, energetic environments, filled with constant interaction. Others thrive in quiet spaces where connection exists without pressure. Neither is better. They are simply different. But if you feel drawn to cats, it may say something interesting about the way your brain experiences the world. You may be someone who values subtle signals over loud gestures, presence over performance, respect over control, and quiet companionship over constant stimulation. So the next time your cat ignores you for 6 hours, then suddenly walks across the room and sits directly on your laptop keyboard, remember something. That strange little creature didn't just wander into your life randomly. Your nervous system may have found exactly the kind of companion it needed. A presence that calms the noise, a creature that understands boundaries, a small living reminder that connection doesn't always have to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes, the most powerful relationships are the quiet ones, and sometimes the beings that help us feel most human are the ones who simply sit beside us in silence. Maybe the real reason cat people understand something others don't is simple. In a world obsessed with constant attention, they learned how to appreciate quiet companionship, and that might be one of the healthiest relationships a human mind can have. If you enjoy exploring the psychology and science behind animal behavior like this, consider subscribing.